Welcome back, everybody. My name is Michael, and this is my 2002 Porsche 911 Targa, and this is the Silver Targa Chronicles. In today's episode, we're going to install a 4-piece aluminum pedal set from Rennline. So why don't we take a look at the parts and figure out our game plan. Okay, so here we have our 4-piece billet aluminum and 300 stainless steel Rennline pedal set, and this is the dead pedal, basically where you put your foot when you're not using it, your left foot of course. And we've got our clutch, our brake, and our accelerator setup. Now this isn't all of the pieces for the accelerator, but this is actually a highly adjustable, I would say it's completely adjustable for height, depth. It's also adjustable laterally and angularly. And it comes with these throttle extensions, these little plates right here that, give you a little less room between the brake and the accelerator for when you want to heel toe. This is going to eliminate pretty much all of the plastic connections. We are going to use the original accelerator. We're going to be doing a couple of modifications. So this will be a, what's the right way to say it? This will be a mod that will actually alter the car. Now, of course, if someone later on down the road wants to bring this back to stock, they can just go online and buy the original accelerator pedal setup. So I'm not really worried about that. I know I've got to make some alterations, but I think that's completely okay. So the reasons behind why I'm doing all of this: number one, I want to eliminate any chance of pedal failure. There's all these plastic parts. It's a plastic connection here. So this is now going to be all metal. This is really nice motion. This is really well built stuff. I think it's going to be able to take the abuse and hold up to a possible track day in the future. Also, I've always wanted to learn how to heel toe. The car that I had prior to this one, the pedal setup just wasn't conducive. The accelerator was quite a bit lower than the brake. Heel towing just felt impossible. I was never really able to figure it out. So I really want to learn how to do that in this car. And I just figured, let's get right to the source. Let's get the best pedal set we possibly can, and hopefully that'll make me better at heel and toe action. And finally, this is about looks. This is a much nicer looking pedal set than what's in the car right now. It's plain old boring black plastic. And being a silver car, this is going to add some nice little highlights inside the interior to bring some silver inside and dress it up. So that's that. We are going to start with the dead pedal. So let's get in the car and get rolling. Well, as you can imagine, this is an incredibly tight working space under here. And being that my only piece of gear right now is my iPhone, I had to abandon the idea that I might be able to somehow get a tripod in here. So I'm going to be doing this handheld and doing my best to keep things fairly steady. But we're going to start with the dead pedal here. It should be pretty simple. It's one screw. We're going to pop that off and get the new dead pedal in there. These guys are, I didn't mention earlier, but both of those pedals are also going to require, according to the directions, they're going to require a little drilling. So that should be interesting. I want to give you a closer look at the accelerator. Now, if you can see, there's like a whole back box area. We're going to be taking that off, and we're going to be taking apart the pedal. Now, the pedal piece is going to be completely replaced, but that black plastic box behind there, we're actually going to be using that, and I'll be able to show you that afterwards out on the work table, how we're going to alter that, but some fun work ahead. Okay, so we were able to remove the stock dead pedal pretty easy. That one screw, and then it actually lifts up. You can kind of see where those slots that are in the back here pop out. Pretty straightforward. And then we're going to be removing one of these rubber nubs, something or other here. And we're going to be mounting that, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. Okay, so we successfully got the dead pedal installed. Little piece of advice for those of you out there. This little stiff carpet area is really going to have to be kind of, you're going to have to pull it out while you slide the dead pedal under. And what I found to be the case was that the screw that Rennline gives you is a finer thread than the stock screw. So it really has trouble finding the original mounting hole. So what I ended up doing was using the stock screw. It's holding way tighter. It's really in there. And with the other screw, like, I could get a couple of turns before it would actually just, lose the hole again. It was like I couldn't tighten it to the level that I wanted it to be. So I'm using the stock screw. I guess, if you really want to get nitpicky, you can kind of see that screw a little bit more than the one that they provided. But I'm not going to worry about that. All right, on to this guy. Okay, we're going to be removing the rubber on those two guys, and then we're going to be figuring out the mounting holes based on once the rubber is removed. So let's get that rubber off. I'll try and do it with you guys actually watching. Just kind of a reach around, removing that grip, and that's pretty much it. So as I mentioned, this is actually going to be somewhat destructive. I'm gonna have to drill this. It's plastic, so that shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, let's see what the pedals look like on there. There goes that one. Okay, let's go grab those pedals. Okay, what I wanted to show you guys is that you've got a couple of things to consider here when you're looking for where you're going to mount the new pedal onto the old, the pedal structure here in the car. There's a little line right here on the pedal, and that actually denotes this open area behind the pedal. Doesn't go quite all the way to the top. It stops maybe right there. And then behind, there's like a, two pieces of plastic, on both sides. And that would, block where you'd want to drill a hole and mount. So, I figured take off all the rubber bits, and this way I can have a really clear look. So I'm thinking I'm going to probably do that hole right there, because it lines up right on the line, and then probably 1 and 2 up here, because they should be far enough out of the way to not get caught up in the back of the pedal. So I'm gonna mark that out and see how it goes. Okay, so just wanted to check in on progress here. I have marked the holes. I went ahead and did a pilot hole for each one, just to be able to be sure from the back that I'll be able to use these lock nuts. You can see the little bit of rubber there that locks it. This one is going to be no problem. That's the final hole size. That one's going to be no problem as well. But this one really kind of ended up against the edge of this plastic here. So, I'm hoping with maybe some creative drilling I can make it work. We're going to find out. So we've got 3 holes. This is basically, just to test fit. We're gonna have 3 screws holding this in, and it looks like it came together okay. That's what it looks like on the original pedal. The one on the right hand side does feel a bit off to the edge. It still looks good with the actual pedal on. So we're gonna connect this completely and then take another little video. Okay, as you can see, we got our first pedal installed. It's challenging, yeah. A couple things to be aware of. This little channel that's behind the pedal arm here, you're not going to have enough room to get a wrench in there to hold on to the back side. So, what you end up doing is kind of using the open end and kind of jamming it back in there. The only one that was really in a good position to use the box end of the wrench was up here. And this guy in this corner, as I was mentioning, it got a little close to this. So I had to, you know, kind of go back there with a little pocket knife and scrape some more of the plastic, just enough to get that lock nut back there. And then once I got it back there, and you know, it kind of wedged itself into place, and I was able to tighten everything down. So and I put all the little nubbies back, and you know, honestly, it looks fucking great. I'm hoping that the brake pedal will go a little bit quicker now that I've had a little practice with this one, and we shall see. Okay, so as you can probably see by the tailings on the ground there, the brake pedal arm is metal, and I guess I could have checked before. This is plastic, this one's metal. It's got like a rubberized coating on it, but it also means that the architecture behind comes all the way down to this point. So you can't really get a center hole in here because there's just, you know, this fat bit back here that's not going to allow you to attach the, you know, the lock nuts. So I've done just these 2 holes, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be enough to hold it on. I'm going to, you know, wrench this down, and we'll see how it comes out. Okay, things are looking really good. I was able to tighten down the brake pedal with only 2 mounting points pretty well. You know, the nice rubberized coating on the brake pedal arm actually gives it a nice grip on the lock nut behind, and that guy is on there nice and tight. So now is the you know, I think is a good break point. I don't think I'm gonna, it's kind of late in the afternoon, I'm not gonna go after the accelerator today because that's gonna be a lot of steps, but I'm actually gonna do a little driving with just these 2 pedals, leave the accelerator the way it is, and then come back to it tomorrow. Continuing where we left off, next up we are going to be taking apart the accelerator assembly. So if you can see right over there, there's 1 screw. We're going to be unscrewing that. The pedal assembly is going to go up about a ½ inch, and then we'll be able to pull it away from the floor because there's a little hook in the floor similar to what we saw at the bottom of the dead pedal. So once we do that, we'll be rotating it to the side, and then there are a couple of more screws that will actually be able to disassemble that plastic backing from the accelerator pedal. And I'll be doing my best to video this for you. Let's see if that's possible. If by some miracle this holds, I will be so shocked because I just have the phone propped up over there, and I'm sure I'm gonna elbow it at some point, but maybe I won't. We'll see. Well, I'll be damned. Okay. Well, it finally released. You can see these are what is holding it in. Pretty fancy. Wow. That's a lot of carpet. So I wanted to stop for a second because, you know, looking at this here, especially with all this carpet and like, how is this thing supposed to attach in here? It's a little concerning that, I mean, I didn't realize I was gonna have to cut this much carpet, but it does seem like that's gonna be the case. And yeah, I don't know, quite frankly, I'm not sure how I feel about that. This is pretty serious carpeting with like padding and everything, and yeah, very interesting. After a bit of deliberation, I guess I feel like I've come this far, you know, I might as well go the rest of the way. I'm gonna have to trim a little bit of carpet here and on that side. So I've attached this. I'm not gonna do the trimming right now. I'm gonna deal with the pedal, and then we'll come back and deal with the trimming after. It really shouldn't be that big of a deal. You know, once this is attached, most of that should be hidden away, and you should only really be able to see the pedal. But yeah, I'm gonna deal with that a little later. Right now, we're gonna disassemble this pedal assembly and get to work. Okay, let's disassemble this. That last screw was really a pain in the butt. I had to switch to a different type of screwdriver to get a better grip on the head. I definitely didn't want to risk any kind of stripping. So now we're at the point where we're going to release these two tabs, one here and one at the top, which is a little bit more difficult to see. I'm going to have to stick my head in front of the camera, but you can see this one, I think, pretty easily up here. And the other one, I can't see. Let's see. All right, so we've got the pedal removed from the car. We've disassembled the entire pedal assembly, and now it's time to do some cutting work. The first cut we're going to do is to actually remove this right here, right up until about where that you can kind of see the curve of the box here. So we're gonna make one cut there and one cut across there. Got my handy dandy Dremel. I've already put on the cutting wheel, and I'm gonna be placing it inside this vise. It was a really old vise I just happen to have in the garage, just because I think it'll give me, so I don't have to hold it with my hands and I can focus on the cut. And of course, always remember to wear eye protection. Very important, because if something goes in your eye, you don't want to have an operation or some other craziness to get it out. All right, let's get this thing in here. Not the cleanest cut because we were basically melting plastic while we were doing some of that. But I'm going to go back and actually smooth it out with another different bit in there that'll polish off some of the plastic, I think. Or maybe even just sandpaper to keep it easier. We're going to clean this up a little bit. All in all, not bad. Obviously I made some marks when I was going sideways, but when you look at it from this angle, it's pretty dang smooth. And this is actually going to be kind of on the side against the, against the tunnel. What am I saying? There's no tranny tunnel in the Porsche. Just against the center console, so you're not really going to see this anyway. So, pretty good. Okay, so the next thing that we're actually going to be cutting off, and the last thing, is this kind of house-shaped extrusion here. So it's on two separate pieces. I'm going to start here, cut this one off, then move over to this one. Here we go. So clearly I've cleaned up a little bit. My reliable iPhone, I think, quit when I was doing the second half of the house-shaped extrusion here. So that is all removed. There used to be this little kind of house shape there, all gone. And this whole section here has been removed. So this guy is in a good state. And we're all done with alterations to this body. It's going to go back together inside the car. So now I have to do the thing that gave me pause earlier, which is the actual cutting of the carpet. So we are nearly there now, folks. We're up to the part that has given me quite a bit of pause, which is cutting the carpet to allow for that plate to sit flush against the metal of the body of the car. But, you know, we've got the pedal assembly pretty much put together. You're going to see that in much better positioning once we get it up and mounted to the plate. The original plastic casing for the accelerator has been trimmed and ready to go. And now it's time to cut that carpet. And unfortunately, I've experimented with many different ways. I'm going to have to just show you after what I did. It's a little too tight in here, but we'll make the best of it. So, kind of surprisingly, that was not too bad of a job to cut. This is basically what came out. The toughest part is cutting that insulation foam. It just doesn't want to cut very easily with an X-Acto knife, but 2 of those strips, and you know, the plate is sitting flush, which is pretty fantastic. What's going to happen next is that we're going to drill a hole here and there, and what you'll see when you take the plate out is that we're actually going to put these little J clamps with just essentially a folded piece of metal here and there, and that'll allow us to mount the screws there. And we're not going to drill all the way through the base there. We're just going to be drilling this sort of lifted part. So that's next up. Well, I'm happy to report that the whole drilling went pretty well. I'd say we are right on the money for these. So I'm going to go get those J-clips, and you're going to see how this is going to mount up. So with every tool at my disposal, I managed to get those little J brackets in there, and those are these little things. They slide in from the side, and as you can imagine, when you drill a hole through steel, you know, you're leaving an indentation on the opposite side, or you know, an extrusion, I should say, on the opposite side. So trying to slide this thing on, you know, from that way and from this way was a challenge, as you can tell by the scratch marks all over them, but I think I've got it now. I'm going to put the bracket on top and tighten it down. So after a bunch of struggle, we finally got the plate attached. A bit of advice, I would say that top hole, I would put the nut in there while you're working. That's what I did. And this way, because these guys, because of the J mount, you know, they move around a little bit. So, you know, you want to get those centered, but you also want to ensure that you'll be able to use that one, because that's what's going to hold the plastic pedal assembly once we get this all back together. So we're in a good place right now. I'm going to get the pedal assembly and put that in here. A tough angle indeed, but wanted to show you guys the plastic pedal assembly has been reassembled, joined together, the two halves. We replaced the stock little ball joint on the accelerator with this one, an adjustable one that's going to attach to the new pedal. Saved the stock, this little black housing, and now we're getting ready to mount it in there. And, you know, as usual, working with the iPhone is really tough, but I'm going to put you down and get this thing attached and bring you back. Would you look at that? We've got the stock accelerator assembly back in the car, and I will warn you, for those of you trying to install this yourself at home, that little on the back side of this assembly, and I'll see if I can get a frame from the other video to show you, where that's supposed to fit into the slot on the panel, you know, the block that's attached back here, you know, where that's supposed to slide in. I don't know, the tolerances are so tight, it would just not slide down for me so that I could get access to that top screw up there. So I had to do a little bit of hacksawing to adjust the size of that. Then it slipped in, and voila, now time to attach the accelerator. I ended up taking a few steps forward and realizing that I hadn't caught up with the videos, so I took a few steps back, and I also encountered a few things along the way, so I think this is going to be really helpful for you guys. As you can see, I have attached the accelerator assembly to that bracket that's behind this piece of plastic using those, there's 1, 2, and a third screw back there. Now, in order to do this, I did have to make one more plastic cut edit to this assembly on that side, which, I don't know if you remember, we basically cut off this lip on the other side, and the instructions kind of had us stop right about where the curve begins. But when I tried to install this and get it flush with the bracket in the back, I had to cut just another like 1/4 inch or so more in order to make that fit. So again, heads up if you're dealing with that you know, if you're doing this at home, you're gonna need to deal with that. Now, when I was doing that, I had brought this into the car, this piece, with the pedals and the lifters actually installed in here. Right, that little lifter goes in there, and then this, you know, mounts to it. It goes on the other side, but I'm just trying to illustrate for you. So I had all that in, and I brought it into the car and lifted it up, and this piece right here did not fit in that channel right there. You see that bolt line, right? And the reason that it didn't fit was because when this had those lifters installed, this one being roughly here, and then another one at the top, when those are installed, this long channel has no give. And the tolerance here is, it's more than tight. It actually, when you push this up, as I'll do right now, it pushes those two sides apart. I don't know if you can see that in the video, but it actually pushes them apart. And if you have those pieces installed, it's not going to open up. However, the instructions tell you that this piece is last. It's wrong. Just plain and simple, it's wrong. I ended up contacting Rennline support, and they were super helpful. I really can't say enough good things. They really, you know, were patient with me and walked me through. But at the end of the day, the directions are in the wrong order, because once you have these guys bolted in, this is not going to give to allow you to attach that. So, you know, learn from my mistake. Don't have a bad Saturday because you think that, you know, some part that you got isn't going to fit like I did. I figured everything out. I've disassembled everything. I've checked that everything's now going to fit. I did have to adjust this stop because when I use the accelerator at full throttle, it will make contact with this, so I did make a quick adjustment. So I'm going to attach a few more things and then show you how it looks. Getting much closer now. As you can see, I installed they call them lifter pads. They're basically the spots where the pedals are going to mount to. I installed those. I brought the little bellows up and made some adjustments. I had to adjust the length here a little bit. I think it's important to note that, I don't know if you can see it very clearly in the video, but this is not flush. This has to come up at least this much, otherwise it won't clear the back when you're at full depression of the accelerator. So now, you know, we can take the accelerator, move it all the way down, and it hits the stop, because there's a little stop bolt right back here. Now we're gonna put the handy dandy pedals on there so we can start to get a real look of what this is gonna, and test it out too. I haven't even put my foot up against this thing yet. Soon enough. My oh my oh my. We are getting very close to a finished product here. As you can see, both the upper and the lower pedal plates have been attached, and everything feels really nice. Of course, now it's all about getting in the car and seeing how this feels on my feet. It's going to be very interesting. I don't know, it's hard to tell with this light, but there's actually an extender here. This is a little piece of plastic. So now, you know, pressing that brake down, I should be easily able to just roll over, roll my ankle a little bit, give a touch on that for some heel toe action. The only way to find out for sure is to drive it. So that's next. Thought maybe I'd give you guys a little bit of a sneak preview. It feels really good to me. This is just sitting in the car, of course, and futzing around. I haven't actually taken it out of the garage yet, but it's got a nice feel to it. Very smooth on the accelerator. If you can see, it's very easy to hear, and just, you can kind of hear the accelerator more than you can actually see it. But I can try moving around a little bit. That might be better. So I could be decelerating and just a little roll, little roll. Looks like it's going to be a very, very nice upgrade out there in the canyons. Very exciting.